Now, this is a continuation of the 7 birth gates of the ancients. And what this is that I had explained, and I'm going to do a summary. And I talked about what the 7 birth gates are. And one of the things that I wanted to do is to see if we got any questions and answers as far as where we are. So does anybody right now have any kind of questions that they want to go from here to give us a better understanding of where we are? Anybody got any questions about the 7 birth gates where we have covered? Yes.
Is 7 birth gates within the year, within the 13 moons?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
As far as I'm answering, yeah.
That's it? Okay. The 7 birth gates are together within the area of the 13 new moons. And the 13 new moons with 0 would make 14, which constitutes the 7 doubles, as they would constitute to say. But there were 7 birthstones. And these 7 birthstones, they correlate and come within the 13 new moons. Now, however, when we got our research, we found out there were 13 primaries, but at the time, the stones were given to the sacred 7. And these sacred 7 were the ones who were represented by a stone. And in these stones, there were attributes. There were power stones that were given to different individuals according to the new moons in which they were born. And in being born in a certain zone, it allowed them to have certain powers. The ones who deal with being enchanters and astrologers and etc., back in the biblical days, they would look to see when an individual was born according to the Messiah seed or otherwise. And what happened was, and you'll see in the Old and New Testament, where they sought out children, both male and female, that were of, and he also even pets, where it would be 2 years and under, and 2-year-old child, male or female, and also pregnant women or the woman. So the thing is that they sought them out and killed them during a certain period of the month or the year. The thing is that the calendars have been changed quite often here, and we are now into this modern day calendar. This calendar does not reflect the way of the ancients. The thing is that this is the silver calendar of the modern time. We only dealt with things in the level in the ancient times that dealt with the period of 13 new moons, and then the 7 principal laws and things that were dealing with the 7 birthstones. And this is why it mentioned what we're talking about, where we get into a condition of the 7 birth gates. So what happens is the 7 birth gates of the ancient were not collectively the community, whether it be 12 tribes or otherwise, whether there was an argument of the 12 tribes, 13 tribes, or 22 tribes, the fragment, this and that. The thing is that there were 7 other tribes that were outside of the whole mentioning. And there's a thing that was involved. And in this involvement, it basically stated 7 other tribes. It stated conditions, whether they were inside collectively. This is something that people seem to want to make, that everything connects to the so-called 12 tribes, but it's more than that. Yes?
No, what? It was some Bible verse that was talking about how one tribe was the apple of the Most High's eye. Was that one tribe?
With his name. The one that you call Joshua. And Joshua is called Ayah. And that's the only one with Ayah's name. All the other ones have interpreted or retransliterated names. They do not have Ayah's name in it. Also, it mentions in the book of the so-called comic book Numbers, where Judah, as they say in the commonality, will be the only one to receive and transfer the scepter. So all these other tribes or peoples, they will not be able to do that. There's only one that will hold the scepter.
But they are real, right?
What is real?
Those tribes, those 12 tribes, are they fictional characters?
according to the Jewish Encyclopedia and the Jewish Foundation Studies, they were numbered. We did a study 2 years ago, and we found out that they were numbered and they were called the 12 tribes, but you can easily insert 14 or the number 16 in there, let alone we counted 19. So they attribute and say 12 according to the astrological chart, which is the Magen David, in which we discussed, which is called the horoscope. So they picked 12, and 12 out of the 19 that we know of is what they gave reference to. All right. All right. Now, when we were doing this study, and we were getting ready to understand what was going on, what happened was is that this birth gate is where it has been causing a lot of complex situations. What I was talking about last time was how there was a, how can I say this? There was a group of individuals who, from there they were doing some things, and what I want to do is to cover that, is to show you this here. Can everybody see that? Now, we had talked about this because some people were asking questions about these individuals, and I told them I would get back with them on this study. On this study there, I was understanding how the 7 principal people in this name called Moor, when we were inside Lincoln Heights, we had already talked about Moors, and we had found out about the Wa'aya, and that they were using the Wa to represent Aya, but they canceled out their connection to the Jewish realm. They canceled out the Aya and just dealt with the Wa, and that's why they say Wa or Wa, but then they collectively add in the Va and etc. to do what they had to do. But in this thing that we're dealing with, I wanted to show how these connections, both male and female, the stone, the flower, and inside the heavens, as well as the earth. And this is what you would call commonly the Moors. And in these Moors, there was a term that was used. This term that was used was the one that is called, they say Has or Ah. The H is aspirin to us, so it's like when you say J-E-S-U-S, you think you're saying Jesus, but in Spanish it's Jesus. And in the Hebrew, there is no J. So that is a lot of things that are there. This is in the Arabic, and that's Asanaya. Asanaya is the language that was incorporated to the so-called Moors, as well as the name of the Moors was given to this part here. I like to do things on the female and male spectrum, but at the same time, I was not too sure until I was about 98, 99% correct on where I was at and in my research. And being where I was at, I began to understand how these things became. And one of the things that I noticed is that even in the so-called structure, there was a, what was it called? The mummy number 3. And I showed you this one female. And in this one female, I want to branch off to there just for a second, because I talked to everyone about this female. And I said that she was the gate, or gatekeeper, excuse me, not the gate, but the gatekeeper. Here she is here. Let's see where I can bring it up. Oh, I don't want that. Oh, I don't definitely want that. I don't want that. I want this. Now, this is what I was talking about before, where everybody could see her. And this is what I was saying, that she was the gatekeeper. And she had a book. And in this book, I was trying to connect to